You're listening to the Final Say Radio Show, a Rappaport Media production, with your host Brett Rappaport and co-host John Rappaport.
We've got our good friend James S. Robbins will be joining us any second now. We'll bring him in this conversation. But I just can't believe that this president is going to really start pushing an immigration bill when we really need to fix the things that he's already broken, okay? You've broken enough. Can we fix at least one thing that you've already broken before we break something else, please? It's like a kid running through a glass shop, playing baseball. Anyway, we're going to bring Jim into the conversation and welcome him back to the program. Jim, welcome back. How are you today?
Hey, doing all right. How are you?
It's just, I've got such a bad taste in my mouth because I really can't believe he's pushing immigration the way he is right now. And I just pray that the House has the sense to just push this along and push us along and not agree to something quickly because we have bigger fish to fry right now.
I think it is easier for the House to do that these days for that reason. There are a lot of other things to focus on. So I think that kind of a go slow, piecemeal strategy will work in the House now where it might not have worked before. I can believe that the White House is pushing it because what are they supposed to do? They want to change the topic like crazy. They want to get off this Obamacare debacle. They want to get off foreign policy, which, is going down the tubes. The president wants to talk about something where he thinks he has traction. I don't think that he does, but it's got to be better than talking about all of his failures.
I wonder, I know the Senate had passed a bill. I forgot exactly when they did that, but I wonder how many of those senators right now are anxious to be pushing on immigration when they have races coming up. And they really, there are, beyond Obamacare even, there are economic issues. We have Iran. We have a couple other things that they're really on the boiling plate right now that they need to be looking at. So I wonder if it's as hot in the Senate as it was when they first brought this up.
Well, I don't think it is as hot in the Senate. And I think given all of the problems that people are now understanding that the immigration bill that they passed will cause, another one of these let's pass it before we read it type of omnibus bills, the people are looking at it and saying, wait a minute, maybe this will be just like Obamacare. Maybe the bill that we voted for is going to come back to haunt us in the upcoming election in the way that Obamacare is. That is, once the implementation gets going, that it's going to turn into a disaster. So I think that, number one, as we said, the House is going to go slow on it. Number two, some senators may look back at it and say, well, on further reflection and seeing the way things are going and looking at the responsibilities that have been given to the federal government to implement this, maybe it wasn't such a good idea. But, of course, their vote is already recorded, so tough luck.
Do you think, it seems to me, and I'm surprised it took this long, but it seems to me that Barack Obama is starting to lose some of those people in his own party, that they're starting to realize that maybe I have to start detaching myself from this administration so I don't go down with this ship, or so that doesn't harm my own political future. Do you sense that?
Well, that's being discussed behind closed doors, and some of those reports are leaking out. I think we've already seen them about closed-door meetings with Democrats where they're starting to complain to the White House, and you are also getting public statements where they are starting to show that they want to get a little bit of distance. Landrieu in Louisiana, for example, introducing legislation in the Senate saying, we're going to reverse the problems of Obamacare. We're going to have legislation that will allow people to keep the plan that they had, like the president promised. In other words, we're going to force the president to keep his promise, but no, you can't do that because the way that Obamacare is structured necessitates people losing their plans, having their rates increased, losing their doctors, and so forth. You just can't pass a bill like waving a magic wand and fixing it. It would require overhauling all of the legislation. The entire Obamacare structure would have to be overhauled. And the president threatened to veto even on little tweaks that the House GOP leadership wanted. So now you have people in the Senate basically saying they're going to overhaul the whole thing. But it's all window dressing. It's all part of this they're running scared aspect so that they can get reelected. And I hope whoever's challenging them will point out the utter hypocrisy in what they're doing.
Yeah, in fact, I'm actually surprised because I've been watching. I haven't spoken on it all that much until recently, but I've been watching the race in Virginia. And to me, I think Ken Cuccinelli had a huge opportunity to really drive home the issue of Obamacare and the failings and whatnot. I don't think they've done a good enough job. The other thing in that race, by the way, is that McAuliffe his campaign has been so full of lies and distortions and like, you know, the same types of attacks that went against Romney are going against Cuccinelli, a lot of which are false attacks and you know, made up stuff. I mean, I think it's really disgraceful, the campaign. But I noticed one thing, and correct me if you noticed anything different, but it seemed to me that all the big heavy hitters in the Democratic Party, like Obama, who came into Virginia to help McAuliffe during the last week or so, nobody wants to even bring up Obamacare when they're stumping for him. They don't want to talk about it.
That's absolutely right. And number one, it's significant that they brought in heavy hitters at the end because it shows that McAuliffe is running scared. It shows that the polls showing his decline must have been correct, because why else would Barack Obama make time in his busy golf schedule to go down to Virginia to talk about this campaign? If he had it in the bag by 12 points, and maybe he'll win today, I don't know. I already voted against him, but who knows? Maybe he'll win today. Then okay, fine. But if he had it in the bag, then they wouldn't have made, you wouldn't have brought in Bill Clinton and brought in all this union money and all these carpetbaggers and people coming down here to try to get this guy elected. If it was just a walkover, then fine, that's what would have happened. So at least it shows that things weren't working out quite as well. Now, the trouble is that the Obamacare wave of discontent came so late in the race that I don't know if it'll be effective enough to help Cuccinelli win. It'll lower the margin, but whether he can pull it out, I don't know. I certainly hope so. That would be great. Because if McAuliffe wins, then he's going to spend the next 2 years, 3 years setting up Virginia for Hillary Clinton with the idea that Virginia is going to be her ace in the hole when she runs for president, and if she can win this swing state, then she'll win the whole thing. So it's not, aside from wrecking Old Dominion, which I'm sure McAuliffe will do during his tenure, part of the game is also setting up for Queen Hillary.
Yeah. As if we haven't had enough damage done in this nation so far, we need more from governors, and I really can't imagine a Hillary Clinton presidency. At this point, I feel like we're going to spend decades repairing Barack Obama's tenure. I fear that. Anyway, I want to ask you a question, because I was in my mind, I'm looking at all the comments from Barack Obama and Jay Carney trying to cover up, and other people trying to cover up the you can keep your health care if you keep your health plan if you want to nonsense, and of course they say there's 29 videos. We've probably seen at least that, where Barack Obama clearly is saying what he said while trying to sell health care. But could you ever think of, I can't think of another time in at least my lifetime of a politician making a statement so many times, especially in the cameras like this, and then coming out and pretending and making statements like, I never said that. I never said, that's not what we said. We never said, that never happened. It's like, how does he get away with this, Jim?
He is not getting away with it. If you've seen the latest Gallup poll, he's down to 39% approval, which, so far as I can tell, is just people on the dole and limousine liberals. He's not getting away with it. It is such a blatant lie. It's such a falsehood. It's such a variance with reality. And for them to come out now and say, well, there was always an asterisk. We always meant there was a nuance, that it was only certain plans and only if nothing changed and only if the insurance companies didn't do something, and a bunch of junk like that. Because every time they say that, someone else unearths another quote. And yeah, they're 20, 30, they're countless examples of this because he said it in every speech during the election. It was part of his stump speech. If you like your plan, you can keep it, period. That's what he said, quote unquote. He said it time and again. He said it in the debates. It's on video. It's in print. It's on the White House website. He cannot escape it. And there was no nuance. There was no asterisk. There was no maybe. There was no if. It was period. That is a direct quote. It's not a punctuation mark. He said the word period. So he can't get away from it. He's just got to say, look, I made a mistake. I blew it. He's got to own up to it if he wants to get out of this, because all of this sort of weaseling around that they're doing, it's killing him. And, I hope they stick to that plan, because the dude should go down for telling such an atrocious lie. I'll tell you what I'd like to see. I'd like to see an opinion polling outfit ask the question, if you knew now, and only to Obama voters, go to Obama voters and say, if you knew then what you know now about what the president said Obamacare, would you have voted for him? And I want to know how many would say no, and if the percentage saying no would have been enough to show that he should not have been reelected, because no way in hell should he have been.
Oh, I agree with that. And I'm watching this whole thing, and there are two things that really drive me nuts. There's more than two things, but two specific things. I see the operatives of this administration, and they come out, and the talking points are, well, we simply took Mitt Romney's plan, or it's something that the Heritage Foundation proposed years back. And, well, first of all, Mitt Romney himself, even during his campaign, said, look, it worked, and it took a while for us to get it to work, but it worked in Massachusetts, but I never said we should take this and give it to all 50 states. And he also said, by the way, I think he said his bill was like 70 pages, not 2,000 or 3,000 pages, plus the 10,000 pages of all the rules and regs. I mean, so it's just like you're comparing two things that can't be compared. And by the way, the Heritage Foundation has come out and said many times, clarified what they said and what they clearly supported. And, it's just like, it's like blaming George Bush for what's going on in Benghazi, or blaming George Bush for, the IRS scandal, or blaming George Bush when this administration goes after members of the media. I mean, it just doesn't work anymore. I think we understand clearly what's going on here.
Oh, yeah, it totally doesn't work. Blaming Bush won't work, and I know they tried to do that with health care somehow. Through some, gymnastics, they tried to do that. But, they said, it had to do with the sequestration or with the shutdown, which, of course, had nothing to do with it. None of that playbook is going to work on this. In fact, nothing they can possibly say will work, because at the end of the day, it comes down to his own statement. Unambiguous, if you like it, you can keep it, period. If you like your doctor, you can keep him, period. And that people's costs are going to go down. None of those statements have turned out to be true. And they can't blame anyone else for it, because the president said it, and he sold it based on that. And every single Republican in the Congress voted against this turkey, and so there's absolutely no one to point the finger to but him, and that's why they're in such trouble right now. That's why his opinion numbers are going down, and that's why they can't come up with a plausible way to get out of it. I mean, they're twisting and dodging and ducking and doing all kinds of stuff. You have Carney on the podium yelling back at journalists who are just asking honest questions, for once doing their jobs. And they're not going to get out of this one. It's just going to be interesting to see how it goes. And I'll tell you something. The worst of Obamacare has yet to come. It's not just this website. That's a sideshow. The other stuff with the individual mandate, that's bad enough. But wait until the employer mandates kick in. Wait until employers have to change their plans that affect thousands and tens of thousands of people at a shot. Wait until people working for these companies have to pay more. Wait until the companies have to pay more for the same reason that right now individuals are having to pay more, because the original plans didn't meet the arcane Byzantine requirements of Obamacare. That's going to hit sometime next year or so, and man, that is just going to shock people.
Oh yeah, it was funny. I was thinking to myself, I think the best thing the Republicans do is, of course, you want to keep it the focus in the media. But you want to allow this thing to just kick in, let it go, because I think it's going to topple over, because it can't possibly work. There's so many things in this, I think, that as they start getting implemented, if they can get them to implement, things are going to get worse. And I think even the people who, like you said, supported us at one point are going to feel the pain of it, and they're going to get angry, and they're going to take it out. They're not going to take it out on the Republicans because they know clearly where the Republicans stand on this issue. They're going to take it out on the Democrats, and I think they're going to pay a price for it. Really do.
Oh, big time. Like in 2010, they paid a price for all of the shenanigans of cash for clunkers and the stimulus and all of these giveaways and just the government going out of control and taking over the auto industry and God knows what else. And some of those issues were a little more arcane and hard to pin down, and they paid a price for that with the largest electoral defeat of its kind since the 1930s in the House. Nancy Pelosi went from the reigning queen down to nothing. So just wait for this one next year. I think it's going to really hurt them because this is a very tangible thing. And Republicans should have Obama saying, if you want your doctor, you can keep it on a continuous loop. If you like your plan, you can keep it, period. They should find the best version of that video, the clearest one where he's looking extra smug, and just run that thing as their permanent campaign ad, because by a year from now, things are going to be so hosed up, and it doesn't matter if they fix the stupid website. All that will do is get people information much quicker about how they're being screwed over.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, in just a couple minutes we have left, I want to just turn our attention to what I think is the most serious thing right now, and that is Iran. There was an article in Haaretz, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but the Anti-Defamation League had commissioned a 2003 survey of American attitudes on Israel, the Palestinians, and the Middle East. This was released today in New York. And some interesting things. 50% of respondents would support U.S. military action if necessary to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. A slim plurality over the 41% who are opposed to such intervention. Similarly, 46% believe that sanctions against Iran should remain in place until it gives up its weapons programs. 42 opposed it. I thought those numbers were interesting. And when you look through this, it seems like there's still good support for Israel. If Israel were to attack Iran, 48% say the United States should remain neutral. And I think that that's a big change of the attitude that we've had in this country, and I think it's because this president has almost ignored the issue, and he's not taking any kind of leadership on it. So I'm not sure the American people realize that Iran is as serious an issue, or maybe they just don't trust this president to be able to take the necessary actions or make the right decisions on it. So it's very interesting to me, but it's scary if you're Israel, and it's scary if you're somebody who loves Israel.
Yeah, the American people are tuned out of issues like that generally. They should be paying attention. I don't know if they will. I think American people understand that Iran is a threat. What Obama can do about it is another matter. I mean, his diplomatic opening to Iran has done nothing. I mean, it's emboldened the Iranians. It's got the Israelis worried, and it's alienated the Saudis. So it's really kind of a dumb move on his part. And all it's doing is further destabilizing that region. No one trusts him over there anymore. The Arabs are tuned out because he hasn't done what he said he would do in Syria. His disappearing red line trick. He might fool a bunch of mainstream media reporters in this country, but he doesn't fool the people in the region. And he doesn't fool the diplomats in the region especially. The Egyptians, and the whole business about him supporting the Muslim Brotherhood, and they finally got up the gumption to kick those guys out. So nobody over there trusts him. They don't think he knows what he's doing. And really that makes it more dangerous because it means that the Israelis and the Saudis and other countries are going to have to take care of this on their own, and they may actually lack the power to be able to do it without our backing. So I wish the United States would get its head screwed on straight. Actually, if he took a stronger line, he would make conflict less likely. I don't think he understands diplomacy, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's an excellent point, actually, Jim, because if he just became more vocal, and I actually said this yesterday, if our president and some of the European leaders and maybe some other world leaders just grouped together and made the statement, we're not going to let you do this, Iran would have to listen. because right now it's really nobody telling them. And so why should they listen? I mean, it's a joke when the UN gets involved. So I don't know. I just want to say this before I let you go. I went to vote. Actually, it seemed like a decent turnout, but I could not get myself to vote for Chris Christie, so I wrote my own name in, and so did my wife. So I at least got 2 votes for governor. Seriously, I couldn't support him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know why people think that guy is a good guy. You know, he comes across well superficially because he's loud and he's kind of funny. But, you know, when you look at his policies and look at what he's doing, okay, is that what passes for Republican in New Jersey? You know, I know there are better guys in the state because you're there, but come on. Someone's got to be able to do better than that. And the notion that, you know, he's the future of the Republican Party, well, I think that would be a Democratic dream, because if he's the future of the party would split in 2, and then that would be the end of that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think it would be kind of humorous and interesting if he does get into the presidential race just for a short period of time. After a while, I think it'll get old, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, he's definitely going to win. I mean, it's not going to be close. Hopefully Ken Cuccinelli wins, and hopefully our president wakes up and starts addressing some real issues. But I want to thank you for joining us again, Jim. It's always great to hear from you.
No, thank you.
All right, take it easy. Have a great day.
Yep. See ya.
Bye. Well, folks, that's James S. Robbins, who is always he brings a lot to the table and always interesting and very good commentary on all the different questions I have for him each week. Yes, I'm always all over the map with the questions and whatnot, but I can't help myself.